since we are talking about the light, we most likely do need to talk about Anduin. Right now, everyone has quite possibly read Shadows Rising. If you haven't, spoiler alert, even though it's been months now, you should have been done reading it already. But towards the end of, literally I think it's the second last chapter, or maybe the last chapter before the epilogue, we see Anduin going through a rather interesting little, shall we call it an experience, where Anduin has void running down his arm. Now, a lot of people say, dude, there's no evidence that that is void. The explanation and the description given in the book for what was happening to Anduin, that is void magic. He had a drop of void magic running from his arm down to the palm of his hand and settle there before disappearing. This is Anduin. In other words, there is void right now present within Anduin. But here's the problem. Here's the problem with what many people ask, and yet no one seems to realize what is actually happening here. Because all of a sudden, I started getting questions from people saying, dude, does this mean that Anduin is going to serve the void and Anduin is going to be evil? Does this mean that Anduin is going to be an enemy at some point because he now serves the void? No. Remember the whisper. The crown of light brings only darkness. The entire whisper is, the Golden One will claim a vacant throne. The crown of light brings only darkness. You do not require the void in order to bring darkness. The light in and of itself is perfectly capable of bringing darkness by itself. But there's another whisper that many people clearly seem to miss. The light has struck a bargain with the enemy of all. What is the enemy of all? The Three Sisters comics tell us exactly what the enemy of all is. The light has struck a bargain with the enemy of all. There is only one way you create an undead character, and that is with the help of Zuvul. There is no other way to do it. Zuvul is the only one with that power. The power to interfere in the world and the realm of mortals. We also know that in the Three Sisters comic, the Void screams at Illyria, telling her to kill Sylvanas because she serves the enemy of all. At the time, we didn't have a fucking clue what they were talking about. We did not understand what they were talking about. Now we know. The Void views the Jailer as the enemy of all. Kalia Menethil was brought back from the dead by the Moorsworn. It was the Jailer's Moorsworn that ventured to Kalia's soul and brought her back so that the light could raise her as Forsaken. This is why that whisper states, the light has struck a bargain with the enemy of all. And the light has done this because of its own weakness. Remember the the enemy infiltration war preface document that we went over literally a week ago. The Dreadlords have invaded every single one of the cosmological forces. Lord Thraxian serves in the army of the light. It would not be hard for him. He is a trusted servant in the army of the light. And according to the preface, he doesn't actually serve the light. And this is where the next whisper comes in. And I've used this whisper multiple times now. The cunning ones kneel before 6 masters but serve only one. Lorthraxion did not serve the light. However, he was key to the plan. And why is this? This is where we get to the light and the shortcomings of the light. According to the preface, the light will be one of the easiest to take over because of their I see only one truth, and this truth is the truth. So as long as you don't argue with the light about their truth, they're happy to have you. The light is one-track minded. It is incapable of seeing past its own nose. It views only in terms of its own truth and no other truth matters. The light does not see the jailer as the enemy of all because it doesn't have to. Because most likely it does not align with its own truth. For the light, and Xal'atath tells us this, just FYI. Xal'atath says this. In her whisper she says, the light views us as monsters, as horrors that should be defeated. But we do not share that view. To us, they are merely brothers and sisters who have lost their way. And they will return to their masters in time. This is quite literally what the light believes. The light cannot view the jailer as an enemy. It cannot view life as an enemy, or the foul really as that big of an enemy. The foul is kind of an enemy, but their biggest enemy, their one true enemy, is the void. And anything that they can do to defeat the void is a victory for the light, even if that means they have to destroy, they have to strike a bargain with the jailer. So when people ask me, dude, do you think Anduin will be evil because he follows the void? No. He doesn't need the void to be evil. He's got the light. I believe all of this is going to be set in motion. So here is how I think all of this sets off. For those of you that didn't read Shadows Rising, allow me to spoil the book even more for you on this. Turalyon and Illyria, at the behest of Anduin Wrynn, is traveling Azeroth looking for Sylvanas. Turalyon does something rather interesting throughout his time with Illyria. Because Turalyon is conflicted. He trusts Illyria, he loves Illyria, but at the same time he is of the light, he serves the light, so he suffers from the exact same problem that the light suffers from, right? The exact same problem that the light suffers from is what he suffers from. The inability to see past his own truth, to see past what is actually happening to him. Now it is in this that we find something rather troubling about Turalyon's actions. And it is really in Jaina's eyes that we see this for the first time. Illyria uses the void to extract information from their, I don't want to call them victims, but suspects. And these are normal people. These are fishermen, right? Orcs running away, trying to escape, or undead trying to escape, trying to get away from the problems and the problem areas. These are civilians. Illyria uses the void to rough around inside their minds, right? To fuck around with their own minds so that she can see the truth. Turalyon uses the light to hold them down. The book actually explains this in grueling detail. Turalyon uses the light to hold them down, and Illyria tortures them with the void. The reason he does this is because the end justifies the means. Sylvanas needs to die, and therefore everything goes. Anything goes. The Golden One claims a vacant throne. The crown of light will bring only darkness. Turalyon has already started on this path. There's no turning around for him now. He has drank the proverbial Kool-Aid. Turalyon has accepted his fate. He must. There's no other way. So in other words, the ends will truly justify the means for him, and Turalyon will be the one that opens the door, but Anduin is not innocent in all of this. Throughout Shadows Rising, and this is something that very few people picked up on, but I do have to tip my hat to those who did. I got multiple DMs from a lot of you mentioning this, saying, Akalon, when are you going to talk about this? Well, we're talking about it now. Jaina has a severe problem with what Anduin is doing in Shadows Rising. At one point, she confronts Anduin in the throne room, and she's trying to break through to him. She's trying to explain to him that the path you are on, she tells Anduin what she found Turalyon and Illyria doing. Turalyon was holding down a fisherman, while Illyria was extracting information using the Void. She tells Anduin about this, and Anduin doesn't even flinch. Because the ends justify the means. And you get this sense throughout the book, and this is actually something that I did ask Madeleine Roux about, and she said yes, that was what they were going for. Jaina saw this all happen before. To someone that she happened to have loved quite a bit. Someone who was also of the light. She saw this happen to Arthas. The exact same thing. The ends justify the means, therefore, we must. It doesn't matter that what we do, we will, in the process of doing this, we will sell our own souls. We must find Sylvanas. In other words, to hell with our own souls. To hell with right and wrong. We must find Sylvanas. And if that means that we use the Void to extract information painfully from civilians, so be it. That's what we must do. And it bothered her. You could see it in the book. Jaina was very distraught with what Anduin was doing. When you get to the Maw, and this is unfortunately a cinematic that we have not yet seen, but hopefully, the jailer oversees the personal torture of Thrall, of Bane, and of Jaina. Sylvanas oversees the personal torture of Anduin. When you get to where Anduin is locked up, you actually see Sylvanas standing there in the distance next to him, and unfortunately, we just don't get a cinematic for it. The cinematic right now just shows a placeholder. Sylvanas is looking to break Anduin, to push him over the edge. This is why she is personally interrogating him, personally working with him, because he is close. He is close to being pushed over the edge. And that is what she wants. So no, to answer the question, will Anduin be evil because of the Void? No. No. He doesn't need the Void to be evil. The light is enough, shall we say. The light is more than enough. The light is evil. And I believe that's why this torture is happening. That might be why Sylvanas is taking such a, and this is something I just thought about, that might be why Sylvanas is taking such a personal interest in Anduin. Perhaps trying to show him that your light is the problem. Believing in these cosmological forces is the very problem, Anduin. You keep thinking of me as your enemy, but I am not your enemy. The light is your enemy. The void is your enemy. These are your enemies. Sylvanas says that to her own sister. She calls Illyria an abomination for serving the void. Trying to think just now if perhaps we could look at the 4 leaders that was captured, and we know that she wanted to capture Tyrande as well, and perhaps we could make the following sort of, shall we say, deduction. Jaina is arcane, or at least she trusts in the arcane. Tyrande would be Elune. She trusts Elune absolutely. Right? Absolutely trusts Elune. Thrall and Bane follows life. Right? Well, Thrall follows more the elementals or the elements within life, but still life in general, right? So part of the life, the life cosmological force. And then we have Anduin, who follows the light. Now remember, 2 problems no longer exist. The problem of the foul has been defeated, and the problem of the void, for now at least, has been defeated. Or have been defeated. What the fuck, Echo? Have been defeated. So she didn't need to capture Illyria, because the void right now is not a problem. And obviously, who you're going to capture for the foul, the only guy that you could really look to capture would be Gul'dan, and there's every chance to believe that he might be in the mall anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right? And you're not going to get to Illidan. So even if you wanted to capture Illidan, Lunar, you couldn't really get to him, right? He's quite far away. That would be one hell of a commute before you actually get to capture him. So maybe they just decided, fuck it, way too expensive to get to Illidan. It's really not worth the cost. We'll just leave him there. But it does appear as if the leaders that was caught are the leaders who would most likely identify as the last remaining threats from a cosmological universe. Now, I might just be reading too much into that, and that's perfectly fine. That's the point of speculation. We tend to read too much into it, but that's how we get to the truth of the matter. But the leaders do make it very interesting to me. Why certain leaders and why not others? Why only focus on some of them and not on all of them? Why not try and capture all of them? The Morsworn is infinite. There are infinite numbers of Morsworn. So she didn't have to just capture those. She could have captured all of them if she wanted to leave the Horde and the Alliance with no way of defending themselves because our leaders are gone. She didn't though. She focused on specific leaders. And I want to know why. That could be one of the reasons. Of course, there could be a million other reasons. So, what do you guys think? Yes, no, maybe? Am I losing my fucking mind? Where are we on this?